Cover Up, Chapter 15, Intercepted. Stevie normally didn't have trouble sleeping, but he found himself tossing and turning, and when he did fall asleep, he kept dreaming that Dr. Snow was trying to kidnap Susan Carroll, and he'd snap awake again. When he woke up a third time and saw that it was just a few minutes before 6 a.m., he decided to give up. He took a long shower, got dressed, and went downstairs to the lobby, where he bought a copy of the Indianapolis Star, and then poured himself a cup of coffee from the lobby table that offered free coffee and little pastries. He plopped down on a couch and wondering if Susan Carroll had gotten up to swim. He was reading a story on why Don Meeker had surpassed Dan Snyder as the least liked owner in the NFL when he sensed someone was standing over him. Couldn't sleep either. He looked up and saw Susan Carroll sipping her own cup of coffee. "You didn't swim?" he said. She shook her head. "Day off. I told Jason I'd meet him tomorrow instead. He seems nice. He's a good swimmer, too." She nodded. "Yeah, for an old guy." She sat next to him on the couch. "He told me he swims back home with Clay F. Britt." "Who is Clay F. Britt?" Her eyes went wide. "You don't know who Clay F. Britt is? He's a legend back in the—" She was mercifully interrupted by the arrival of Bobby and Tamara. "I guess no one slept in this morning," Kelleher said. "Did you make the call?" Susan Carroll asked. "I thought I'd wait until after 7 o'clock, Kelleher said. "Don't want the guy to claim he told me something because I woke him up. Why don't we get some breakfast, then I'll call him." They all agreed to that. The coffee shop was virtually empty. "Not too many early risers during Super Bowl week," Tamara commented. "You see someone at this hour, they're as likely to be coming in as going out," Bobby agreed. They ate quietly, Kelleher giggling as he read the story on Don Meeker. "According to this, people who work in his house are given written instructions on how to behave," Kelleher said. "Among them are, do not speak to Mr. Meeker unless spoken to, do not enter a room Mr. Meeker is in without permission, and never look Mr. Meeker in the eye unless he's talking to you." "Boss of the year," Tamara replied. By the time they finished, it was almost 7:30. "Time to see if our boy is up," Kelleher said. He took out his cell phone and walked to the front door, dialing as he went. "You guys wait inside," he said. "No need for you to freeze, too." He was back a few minutes later. "He's going to call me back," he said. "I told him he had until noon, and then we would alert our editors that the story was coming. I told him not to bother calling anyone at the newspapers because they weren't going to roll over and play dead like the TV guys." "How did he sound?" Stevie asked. "Pissed," Kelleher said. "Extremely pissed. Look, tomorrow and I have to go to a radio studio for a show back home. We'll call you when we hear something." "Where will you be?" I don't have anything until the coach's press conference at 11, Stevie said. "I have to be at the Dome at 8:30, Susan Carroll said. "We're supposed to interview someone for tonight's show." "Who?" Stevie asked. "I have no idea. I think they were trying to get one of the general managers. No players are available today, and we've already had both coaches." "Well, keep yourselves on," Kelleher said. "I'll call as soon as I hear something." He and Mearns headed for the door along with Susan Carroll. Stevie was left alone to either sit in the lobby and worry or sit in his room and worry. He opted for the room. Even after 8 cups of coffee, he was exhausted. It wasn't quite 8 a.m. Stevie didn't realize he had fallen asleep until the phone woke him up. He looked at the clock and was surprised to see it was almost 10. He had finally slept without having a bad dream. He picked up the phone, hoping it was Kelleher. It wasn't. "Meet me in the lobby in 5 minutes." It was Susan Carroll. "What? What's going on?" "I'll tell you when I get there. Bye." Stevie was tempted to take another shower to clear the cobwebs from his head, but the sound of her voice made him decide not to keep her waiting. He splashed some water on his face and grabbed his coat and phone. Susan Carroll was walking in the door when he got downstairs. The lobby was now back to normal, packed, and she waved him in the direction of the door as soon as she saw him. "What's up?" he said as they walked outside. He noticed she was shivering, even though it was a bright, sunny day and felt much warmer than any day of their arrival. "He called," she said. He says he'll meet with us and only us and give us the documents." "What? Where? When? Why?" Stevie sputtered. "Walk me back to my hotel and I'll explain." They set off, and Susan Carroll began slowly. There are two stories to tell, she said. I'll go in order because it's easier. Stevie nodded, so she continued. When I got over to the dome, Tal was all excited about who he'd gotten to be our guest tonight. Let me guess, he said. Dr. Snow. She shook her head. Better. Don Meeker. Stevie almost tripped. What? Little Donnie doing an interview? A TV interview? It's better than that, she said. Apparently the deal they made was that he had approval over all the questions. Remember how we used to do our interviews? We just ask whatever came into our heads, right? Not today. The questions were all set up for us on the prompter when we got there. And if you ask me, Meeker didn't just approve the questions, he wrote them. My first question, I am not making this up, was, Mr. Meeker, why do you think the media refused to talk or write about all the work you've done for charity over the years? Oh, God, Stevie said. What else? Everything was like that. Jamie had to ask one about the media being jealous of him because he's a self-made billionaire, and I had to talk about his brilliant free agent signings that people kept giving credit to Eric DaCosta for. Why credit the general manager when you can credit the owner, right? Exactly. I mean, it was sickening. Meeker was practically cuddly, talking to us like we were a couple of little kids and explaining just how mean all these people have been to him. When he left, I told Tal that I thought the whole thing was a disgrace. What'd he say? He said we had an exclusive no one else in town had, and that I should spare him my teenage righteous indignation. What an idiot. Did you point out that an infomercial hardly qualifies as an exclusive? Hang on. I'm coming to the important part. I go to get my makeup off, and I'm thinking I need a long bath just to get all the slime off, when I turn on my phone, and there's a message from Snow. Stevie had almost forgotten there was a part 2 to this. I call him back. And he says he won't deal. He says to me he won't deal with Bobby because Meeker really hates him and he doesn't trust him. Well, that's a bunch of... She held up her hand. I know, just listen. He said he'll only meet with us, that if Bobby or Tamara show up, he'll walk and take his chances. That sounds like a trap if I ever heard one, Stevie said. Keep the adults away. That's what I said to him. He said he doesn't want to risk being seen with Bobby or even talking to him again. He said there was no point in giving us proof and being pegged as a source. He'll give us the test results, but Bobby can't mention him in the story. Huh. There's a certain weird logic to that. Yeah. So he'll meet us 11 o'clock at this place called Union Station. It's one of those old train stations they built into a mall. It's only a couple blocks from the Canterbury. It will be crowded, which means I've got to put on a big coat and cap or something so people won't recognize me. You should probably wear a hat too just to be safe. Hang on a minute, he said. We need to at least tell Bobby what's happening. They were walking into the lobby of the Canterbury. Susan Carroll nodded. You're right. Why don't you call Bobby while I go upstairs and change, see what he thinks we ought to do to cover ourselves. She left him in the lobby. Stevie walked back outside to call Kelleher. When he explained the latest plot twist, Bobby let out a long whistle. That definitely sounds like a setup, he said. Even in a crowded mall. I don't like it. He's clearly up to something. Problem is, Tamara and I are tied up here for another hour. Maybe you should call Snow back and postpone the meeting. Stevie was shaking his head, even though Bobby couldn't see him. We do that, he'll figure we're onto him, and he might bail out completely. He said, we need to go, but we need to go with some protection because... He stopped. A light had just gone off in his head. Stevie? Bobby said. Yeah, sorry, I've got an idea. Let me call you back. He hung up and thought for a second about waiting for Susan Carroll to come back downstairs. He decided against it. Time was of the essence, and quickly dialed Eddie Brennan's cell phone number. Eddie Brennan picked up on the first ring. Stevie, what's up? He said. A lot, Stevie answered. No time to really explain now, but we may have a way to get the story without needing you as a source, but we could use some help. Name it. Stevie quickly explained to Brennan about the meeting with Snow and their suspicion that it was a trap. Don't go, Eddie said. We have to, Stevie said. Maybe he has the test results on him. Maybe if he makes a mistake of some kind, then he'll have to give them to us. If we don't go, we're nowhere. What do you need me to do? Brennan asked. Is there any way you can send a couple of your security guys to Union Station? Have them follow us in, and if they see something going on, they can jump in and stop it? Bad idea, Brennan said. Snow will recognize them, and then he'll figure that I sent him since he knows I've been talking to you during the week. What you need are some security types he won't know. Hey, wait a minute. What? I've got an idea, Brennan said. It may be a little risky, but it could work. I'm listening, Stevie said. Susan Carroll came back downstairs just as he was hanging up with Eddie Brennan. You reach Bobby? She asked. Yes, and he can't come, he said, but we've got backup. Come on, I'll tell you about it while we walk over. They walked briskly in the direction of Union Station. With the sun out, even though the temperature was still in the low 40s, people were clogging the streets. They walked up the steps to the shops level of the mall, which was teeming with people, too. Snow was waiting near the pizza place he had mentioned, looking a little out of place in a dark sports coat. He wasn't wearing a tie, but he was wearing a scowl. There were no hellos and no small talk. Okay, Dr. Snow, we're here, Susan Carroll said. Where are the documents? You can't possibly expect me just to hand you something like that right here in front of all these people, can you? He said. Stevie's treble antenna went up. You're the one who picked this place? Snow looked around as if he were afraid he had been followed. Susan Carroll said firmly, Look, Doctor, if you were bluffing or something, I'm not bluffing, Snow said, dropping his voice to a whisper that could barely be heard above the din. One of my partners is near me. He's here with me. He looked around again. He's on the other side of the mall, near the movie theaters. It's quieter there. He's got the documents. Let's walk. After you, Stevie said. Stevie walked as slowly as possible. This place is enormous, he called up to Snow. Where are the movie theaters? Snow glared at him and kept walking. Even with her cap on, Stevie noticed that Susan Carroll drew some curious glances, the kind that said, I think I know that person, but I'm not sure why. They rounded a corner, following a sign that said Union Station Cinemas, parking garage. The crowds thinned noticeably. They came up on a movie theater area, which was empty since, according to the sign out front, the first shows weren't until 1 o'clock. There was no one in sight. He probably walked down the hall or something, Snow said. He paces when he's nervous. Well, he'll pace back here by the theater soon, right? Let's just walk around the corner and see if he's here. They rounded a corner. Stevie saw 2 men step from the shadows. They were both huge and looked familiar. In a split second, he knew who they were. Don Meeker's bodyguards. About time, one of them said. He took Stevie firmly by the arm, while the other one did the same to Susan Carroll. Okay, Snow said. Just stay calm, and you'll be out of here in about 5 minutes.